Spellforce Conquest of Eo has been out over a year and a half now, and for 99% of the time, the game has sat collecting dust on my wish list. I could never quite figure it out enough to know if I wanted to play it. After deciding to just sit down, give it a go, and push through, I can confidently say, this game is pretty awesome, albeit a bit mad. I played the old Spellforce games way back in the day. This is nothing like that. There's talk about it being a 4X. Well, it's not like your traditional 4X games either. It's got a lot of similarities to Age of Wonders. But still, it feels like a long way removed from even that. The closest I can place it is Thea, which is a niche title, but if you played that, you should get the idea. It's a chunky video game soup that mixes a bunch of different systems. Role-playing, kingdom management, turn-based tactics, exploring a fantasy world and creating your own story as you go. And that is not a game that comes along often. And when it does, it usually flies under the radar, just as Conquest of Eo did for me. I slept on it since its release, but now I'm wishing I'd got on it sooner. There's so much choice and variety of play. You'll start by picking a wizard type and your schools of magic, and these will alter how you interact with the world. They'll determine whether you're going around looking for plants to brew potions with, or capturing souls and raising undead abominations. There's a diverse world to explore, with varied regions, looming threats, villages in need, and powerful city-states to curry favor with. You'll be clashing with ominous circle mages and trying to harness the raw magical current flowing through the world. Whether you're dossing around and solving problems for the peasant folk, or becoming a super villain mega mage, there's no right or wrong way to play it. So for everyone who's had an eye on the game but hasn't been able to place it, or those of you that just want to get stuck into something different, today I want to dive into Spellforce Conquest of Eo and help you decide if it's the right game for you. As I've mentioned, this has a lot that sets it apart from the pack, but there is some familiar ground too. I mentioned Age of Wonders and Thea. Those are probably Conquest of Eo's closest cousins, but it shares part of its gameplay loop with the wider strategy genre. Ultimately, it is built around 4X ideas. You'll have your domain, you'll develop it, harness landmarks, and gradually expand your land. You'll explore different regions and run into other powers, and you can keep the peace or go to war depending on your mood. It's got a role-playing flavor with quests and events and random occurrences, but it's bigger than just a character or a party. You are building armies, upgrading and leveling them, and always progressing in one form or another. So it's grounded, but the deeper into the world you get, the more you'll see stark differences that take it away from familiar territory. A subtle but key difference is who you're playing against. This isn't a multiplayer game. You aren't going against other versions of you. Your adversaries are the circle mages, and they are fundamentally built different. You're an ambitious upstart wizard, and they will try and keep you down. They each have a specialty and behavior, and should they grow wary of your rise to power, they'll stand in the way of progress. You can by all means try and stay on their good side, but these are antagonistic forces. Push will come to shove, and probably war. Where progression and advancement is passive and gradual in a traditional 4X, this is very active. You're going around the world collecting items and ingredients, and then using them in a variety of ways. This is where your wizard type affects your gameplay loop. An alchemist will scour the land looking for reagents to brew potions with, whereas an artificer is creating glyphs to enhance and upgrade their units. You aren't building up a land, per se, but upgrading your tower. You can choose which rooms are built, and later fine-tune things with room-specific upgrades. The world is littered with landmarks and resources, and your tower can exploit them. These do run out, in which case, you cast a spell, pull up your tower into the air, and set it down somewhere else. This is such a novel idea. It's kingdom building, but it's always moving and changing. Your base of operations is constantly shifting, and you're bringing your home with you as you scour the world, like a magical time and space bending caravan. And you will be traveling a lot. While there is this focus on the grand strategy and the world at large, that is just one half of the game. Ultimately, that's all there to serve up the second focus, which is a role-playing experience. Yes, it's got this big strategy outer layer, but the game's purpose is to let a narrative unfold. Every choice you make swings it one way or another, and that story will be different every game. The wizard you play as, the circle mages you come across, even which region you start in will spin the narrative in an alternate direction. In one game, I was performing jobs for villagers in a bountiful central region. In another, I was roaming frigid mountainscapes sniffing out ore, as dwarves tend to do. The events and choices you make along the way open possibilities. Specialized rooms for your tower, units to build your armies around, even new spell pages for your tome. That's another quirk of the game. It doesn't have a tech tree in the traditional sense. But as an up-and-coming wizard, you have a tome. You start with a base specialty, but you'll grow your repertoire and power as the game progresses. You'll take on quests for villagers and townsfolk and build up your reputation with local towns and kingdoms. Or be a benevolent magical nuisance, casting spells to take their gold or enthrall their population. You're interacting with the world on one level, while also balancing the whims and wants of the powerful circle mages. There's a moral way to do things, but also a constant drive for power. Somewhere down the line, you'll probably have to cross someone, or dispense all pleasantries and take the fight to them. It's a world of conflict, so it's no surprise that at some point, you'll find yourself taking the violent route. Obviously, the various annoyances of the world, beasts, bandits, brigands, etc., you won't think twice about attacking them. You'll have a few different stacks roaming the world led by an apprentice, and each can house a range of unit types, with individual soldiers or monsters earning experience and gaining perks. You can upgrade individual units further by attaching glyphs or casting buffs and spells on them. But there's a whole nother level of possibility in the actual combat mode. Units can learn abilities, have conditional attacks, and utilize consumables to control the flow of battle. Now, it's not as deep as a dedicated turn-based tactics game, but it's pretty solid. It's just another facet, another thing stacked on top that I wasn't expecting this game to do. It's not a war game. It's not a role-playing game. It's not a 4X. It's an amalgam. Lots of pieces that don't fit together, combined into something that somehow makes perfect sense. It is a camel. That's really the best way I can describe it. And it's compelling. The world building is all there. Granted, I haven't played a Spellforce game for many years, but everything is presented cleanly. The map regions have their own identities, and venturing into a new land feels like you're starting a new chapter. There's this overarching narrative that steers the game, but it's the little stories you encounter that really flesh it out. The little quests you undertake, the decisions that dictate where you explore and where you send your tower. Yes, some of the systems are a bit fiddly. The crafting-centric focus can slow everything down, and the grimoire for spells is a lot more about form over function. But you know what? I don't mind it that much, because it's got so much identity and atmosphere. I'm not trying to do the optimal thing. I'm just trying to be the best damn wizard apprentice around and go with my gut. This isn't a game where you're trying to be competitive. After only a couple dozen hours, I can already see parts of the game that can be exploited and gamed. And if you want to play like that, hey, you do you. But with this, I found one of the few strategy games where I didn't feel the need to push the difficulty. I was having fun just going at my own pace, and making decisions for the hell of it. And with that gut feeling in mind, that brings me to the train of thought that I've struggled with most. Who is this game for? I can't really say, if you like 4X games, you'll like this. Or if you like strategy role-playing games, play it, because it's a mix and match. It's a camel, remember? If you like Age of Wonders and prefer the adventuring and questing over the kingdom building, you'll enjoy this. Or if you played and enjoyed Thea, this will click in the same way. But if you're coming from most other strategy or role-playing games, even other Spellforce games, this is a dice roll. If one side of the game really interests you, but some of the aspects, be that the role-playing, the crafting, the kingdom management, or the reading, there is a fair bit of reading. If any of that is an immediate turn-off, you'll struggle, because all the parts of the game intermingle. However, if all those various gubbins are things you like in other games, I think you'll really enjoy this. I really can't think of another modern game that does what Conquest of Eo does. It really is a unique experience. And it's still getting updated, still receiving periodic content updates, both paid and free. It's just a really solid title, and fills a niche in between genres. Don't get me wrong, there are bits and pieces here and there I wasn't a fan of. The information feedback, the crafting interface, and the combat will feel basic if you're coming from Age of Wonders. But I didn't find any of those things detracted from the core experience. As I said, it's hard to pinpoint who this will or won't click for. Fundamentally though, it is something different. I come from a 4X background. Does this make me wish all other 4X games had events and role-playing systems and all these other quirks? Absolutely not. This is a step outside my comfort zone, but I like it. I'm not going to stay here forever, but I'm enjoying my time. It's unlike anything else I'm currently playing, and it fits in my rotation, despite being light on the elements I usually look for. But I'm curious to see just how wide a potential net this game can cast. If you're considering Conquest of Eo, or you've had your eye on it for a while, what parts are drawing you in? If you've already been in my position, ended up playing, enjoying, and are now trying to get others into this crazy game, what are your takeaways? And what keeps you coming back? Drop your comments, thoughts, and questions down below. And on another note, this has been a bit of a different direction on how I usually approach videos. If you like these kind of spotlight, overview, opinion piece video things, and want to see more for different games in the genre, let me know. Or if you hate it and never want me to make another one ever again, you can say that too. I can take criticism. A little bit. But anyway, one final time. This has been Spellforce Conquest of Eo, an unorthodox title that combines all sorts of different body parts to create a captivating and unique game in the strategy space. Thank you for watching.